Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of the LanceScurv Show. We have with us tonight someone who is very special to me, who is very special to the world, and one in a million indeed. And you're probably saying, well, listen, we have no indication who it might be. Well, she's here with us right now, but I want to set the mood and just kind of speak of her bio so you get an idea, which even her bio doesn't even encompass everything or encompass her whole total spirit, because she's definitely mighty. If we had young ladies and young sisters like this in our community all the way through, we wouldn't need police. We wouldn't have situations where families are needy. Relationships would be great and intact, and we would be whole. And my personal opinion is that she is about healing. She is about being holistic. She is about overcoming. Not even just about it, she has overcome. Tina Louise Horton-Quant is a wife, mother, author, guardian ad litem, volunteer, and nonprofit founder and CEO. She is committed to being a beacon of light to her community as an ambassador by spreading inspiration and providing the necessary tools to help young adults leap and land on a strong foundation. Tina had a challenging childhood. When she was just 5 years old, she was placed in foster care along with her 3 siblings, while the 4th sibling was safely taken to Georgia by an uncle and aunt. Tina's life experience, as well as professional accomplishments, motivated her to write her first book to inspire the masses. The book, entitled Live to Fly, Learn to Soar, shares Tina's story of overcoming obstacles and discovering self-love through the process. Her hope is that the lessons she has learned and shared in this book will give hope to and inspire others to live a life well lived. As a former foster youth, Tina intimately knows what foster youth experience and the hardships they face as they enter the system and grow as young adults. Tina, with a mission to improve the quality of life for children put in foster care, founded Quant, SOAR, Incorporated in August of 2019. The organization's mission is to teach foster children, youth, and young adults life skills and enrich their lives by providing outreach services or resources and assistance. In addition, she strives to help to provide foster youth a dedicated tribe so they can thrive. The next generation of foster youth deserves a quality life of hope, inspiration, and accomplishment, and a loving, safe, nurturing home to flourish. Tina demonstrates what truly means to fostering love and humanity, one person at a time. So everyone here, welcome my dear, beautiful sister, Tina Louise Horton-Quant. How are you, sister?
Good evening, Lance. Good evening, Lance Village and family members from all across the world. Thanks for having me. I'm greatly humbled and honored.
It's been a long time. And
Yeah, it has.
yes. And in that time, you've accomplished so much. And there's so much more to what you can have put in your bio. I mean, you're a living work in progress. And for all you've been through and overcome, it's unscathed. Because look at you. You're a beautiful example of a sister, a mother, a daughter, an aunt, cousin, neighbor, but most of all, womanhood.
Yes.
And you're somebody that we all can look up to as an example. So it's so vast. I got to say, where do we start? And I do have a few things. I mean, you start. I mean, I can just jump right into it, but this is your show. You know, we're talking about the multiple homes now and you know, just all those things. But you flow, because there's no end to this. When this ends, it's because the energy that you feel, hey, I got it out of my heart. You know what I mean? So.
Absolutely, Lance. So you say, where do we begin? And I'll be honest with you, I've been uncovering and discovering foster care in a whole different way. So I did the background of what started and what initiated and ignited foster care to begin with. And believe it or not, it started like in 1636. And it was founded of the Jamestown colony. And basically, at the age of 7, Benjamin Eaton, he became the nation's first foster child. And in 1853, Charles Loring Brace began the free foster home movement. He was a minister. He was a director of the New York Children's Aid Society. And Brace was concerned about the large number of immigrant children sleeping in the streets of New York City. He devised a plan to provide them homes by advertising in the South and West for families that are willing to provide free homes for the children. And, you know, as circumstances arose there, he was just very creative with his activism, that he founded the movement, and it still exists today. It was one where he was looking for placements for these children. So as a result of the New York Children's Aid Society, the sectarian social agencies and state government, they got involved with him, and various states started to move, 3 specifically. Massachusetts was one, Pennsylvania, and South Dakota. And for the most part, they were moving children on trains to, like, I would say, rural areas where they will have them live with farm families. And that was a way for them to be provided for provision, for food, for shelter, and things of that nature. And you know me, I'm one that I believe in educating and being informed, well informed. And this was news to me, to be honest with you. I never wanted to know the origin of foster care, because to me, I'm the poster child of foster care. But it's important to know, where did they begin? What was the ideas and ideals that caused for people like me, my generation, those thereafter me, to even be listed as a foster child, to be labeled as a foster child, to have that stigma of a foster child? Who had that idea? And it's good to know that, you know, we have Wikipedia, we have social media, we have so many different ways that we can uncover, discover, and learn about the history and origin of any plight. So that's the way that I would say, let's begin there. You know, how did this start? But we already know the why. You know, we know the why is because of abuse and neglect, or both, and being in an unfit home. So where my story began and what my book is about, Live to Fly, Learn to Soar, it's about a timeline. You're going to take a walk with me through my experiences from my own home life and what that looked like for me and my siblings, where we lived down the street from the mosque where Louis Farrakhan originated. Yes. Wow. Off of Stony Island.
Yes.
The 5-point star crescent moon. Yes. Every time I walk down the block of where I live off of Blackstone, you will see it there. Beautiful, beautiful edifice. Beautiful.
I know. I've been there. I've walked right in front of it. Yes. Unbelievable.
And we will go there with my aunt, and I would go there with my cousin, which is her only daughter. And she's about 4 years older than me or so. And we will go there and we will hang out. They were Muslims, devout Muslims at the time. They've now converted to Christianity. But at the time, that was our escape from our reality. What you find out in my book is that my father is a man of many words, basically. For the most part, he was born in 1928. So my father was old enough to be my grandfather when I was born. He had me when he was 46. And then he had 2 other.
Mine too. My father was born in 1916. and I was born in 63. Yeah. Yeah. So we
Wow.
have that in common. I understand.
We have a lot more in common because I found out that you have a brother older than you that is living in a way that I can relate because I have an older brother, same situation.
And we can say what it is. I mean, there's no shame over here. And you know it because you heard it. Everybody here knows it. My brother has a substance abuse problems. He's on crack now, heroin. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So my father, he was a womanizer. There's no sugarcoating it. I put it out there. And he was married multiple times, had so many children. And as a result of the many marriages and failed marriages and just never connecting with any family that he made. He has 2 children from Korea when he went to the war, a son and a daughter. They're the eldest. And then he comes to the States, back to the States, and he gets married. He has 2 children. That didn't work. Then he gets with another woman, has 5 children, and didn't work with that one. Then get married again, have 2 other children. And then my mother was the last woman that he was with, and she bore 5 children for him. And I'm the 3rd out of the 5. And so for the most part, what I recollect is that my mother, she's 20 years younger than my dad, and she's aspiring to go into healthcare. She wanted to go and become a nurse. And unfortunately, my dad passed, and his history basically caused him to rely heavily on alcohol. That was his vice. And in doing the alcohol or taking in alcohol and the substance, he became violent and enraged and will release this rage upon my mother. And unfortunately, she was weak. She, would be someone that I would say in my book would be considered like a battered woman going through that syndrome. And so my grandfather, which is her father, will always come and try to get her to leave him. My aunt, I refer to her as Aunt Carrie in the book. She would come and she would try to plead with my mother to leave. And unfortunately, she's thinking that she can change him, like so many women think that they can change a man's character or proclivities or various different however they exhibit themselves. But this is something that was rooted down in my dad. And when I learned later what that was, my father's mother was raped when she was 16 years old. Okay. And they lived in Birmingham, Alabama. They kept it under the rug. My father was conceived out of that rape. Prior to him being conceived, the way that my great-grandmother Matt hid it was she had my grandmother get married to, at the time, a widow who had 2 sons. So she used to my grandmother used to babysit for my step-granddad prior to getting married. And they felt that it was good for them to be a match. And so they had them get married. And sure enough, they my grandmother conceived my dad, and they migrated from Birmingham here in the 20s. So my dad was born in Birmingham, but they migrated to Chicago in the 20s. And so that in itself is something that my father had to live knowing that he was a product of rape. He was not ever told that. He knew that his stepfather was not his father. He was treated very differently, as you can imagine. And he was more like a black sheep outcast. And I believe he struggled from that disconnect and not having that emotional bond with his mother. And of course, his father, he had no knowledge, no relation. So he just only knew his his stepdad, which is my step-grandfather. So when you think about the origin of how my father came to be.
The need for love.
There you go. That's
hence the womanizing. Yes.
That's a broken man. That's a broken man entering into the world, not being treated by his own maternal mother with the love, the nurturing, the affection that she should have been allowed to give him. But because of the violation, it's like she repelled that relationship. And so there really wasn't a bond. And so that's how his beginnings, his first beginnings was. And so he was treated as an outcast. She went on to have other children with my grandfather. And therefore, later in life, my dad was quite a character, to say the least. He wasn't just a womanizer. My father's a big jokester, and he had charisma. He had swag. My father was attractive because he was Indian. We learned that the nationality of the one that raped my grandmother was Cherokee Indian or Blackfoot Indian. And my grandmother and great grandmother were also Cherokee Indian as well, mixed with Black. So it's one of those things where they would call him Pasquale. They would reference to him Longfellow, which was another nickname for my granddad. I mean, my dad was given by my grandparents. So I basically want to make sure that my family's history is given the proper context to get people to understand abuse just doesn't happen. Neglect just doesn't happen. There's an origin and a historical, whether it's secrets or lies or, however you want to refer to it, there's something that happened that triggers any person to become violent or, abusive. And you have to do the work to find out what transpired to cause him to be this way, because I wasn't just going to accept that my father was this person. I wanted to know what was the why. Everybody wants to know what's the why. What's their why? What was his why? Why was he abusing my mother? First, he was abusing himself. Let's get that right. By drinking and using that vice as an escape for what he was emotionally experiencing, what he was mentally experiencing. And that took a toll on him. And I'm not making an excuse for my dad. I don't excuse his behavior by no means, but I'm just saying that this was what happened. And so one day we knew that later it was an anonymous tip that they called DCFS, and they arrived at the home. And we were living in an apartment at the time. And when the caseworker pulled up and came into the home with the various different officials, there was just chaos. I remember screaming. I remember pulling from my mother. I remember yelling, wanting to just be with my mom. Why did we have to leave my home? Why did we have to leave what I've known all my life? And sure enough, that moment, my mother actually suffered a nervous breakdown. The ambulance was called, and she was not able to cope with what was going on, her children being taken away from her. And all I can remember is getting inside of a vehicle, driving away from my home, and knowing that things were changing. And there was nothing that my parents could do. There was nothing that my older siblings can do. We were just going to have to experience it. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we were placed in what they reference as emergency placement. So depending upon the time of day that a child is taken from a home, the social workers have to scramble and find a placement. And when you have families in multiples like we were 4, because the 5th child of my other brother was already taken to Georgia by my uncle, my mother's brother, and his wife. And he was only 1. my baby brother, he was 10 months and he had a hole in his heart. So he required medical care. And so they needed to find a special placement for him. And they found a nurse who, by profession, was also a foster parent, and they placed him there. And he stayed there for the entire time he was in foster care until my older sibling got custody of us. Whereas me and the other two, we were placed first, the emergency placement, and then we all ended up going to a home together, the three of us. So wow. That's the first journey.
That is something. It's almost a miracle that you're where you are right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is a miracle.
Yeah, I would say so.
And you're destined to do what it is that you're doing, because most that I've talked to have come out severely scathed. Not that you don't have scars that have healed and healing. This is, you know, I've dated young ladies who revealed to me that they had to go through and what happens in these foster homes. I want to say something going back to your father. You know, it's not that you condone it, but you were made to understand it. And there's so many of our Black brothers out here who may focus on the womanizing, but it's something deeper. You know, something deeper. Not that we're excusing it, but it's something deeper. But I think it brought a measure of healing to you to understand why.
Yes, it did.
See, and the families here, the ones you're related to here, brothers and sisters, whichever it may be. But I can see on your face still, not pain necessarily, but it's not comfortable for you. And it's a tremendous sacrifice for you to bear your soul this way, but you needed to get it out in the book. But I don't want to talk too much. I want you to flow, sister.
Okay. That's quite all right. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because there's a sense of shame. There's a sense of shame. Who wakes up and say, you know, my father is an abuser. My father is a womanizer. You know, when you think about, you know, those times when you had in school where you got to bring your parents for career day. And I'm fortunate enough to be that parent that showed up to my daughter's school and my son's school for their career day to speak about what I was doing. But I couldn't take my dad to a career day. You know, what did he represent? You know, so to me, that's a sense of shame. And it's an embarrassment, you know, that growing up, that's something I also talk about, is that you get enrolled in a school and the adults are asking you, why don't you live with your parents? And then your classmates are asking, why don't you live with your parents? And it's just like, I got to a point where me and my sister we just got tired of explaining, you know, why we weren't living with our parents. It just became something that she and I just cleverly would just come up with any excuse, but the real raw, you know, reality, because that in itself, people in those days, you know, growing up, they ridiculed you, they teased you, they harassed you, and just made fun of you. And that made it even more worse, you know. But in the portion of the book where I talk about family matters, I actually briefly cover and uncover some of those generational curses, some of the things that are, you know, swept under the rug in many families. And one of the things that I have to highlight, and I did highlight in my book, is that my father, his very own siblings, it was about 15 of them. He was one of the elder ones, but it was about 15 of them. On my mother's side, aside from her, she had 6 other siblings. So you got these huge families, right? And in my mind, I'm always being told how big my family was. And a part of me, I didn't want to be bitter, but I was a little teed off, because I'm like, I got all this family, but none of them really came after us or sought fit to take us in. And with the exception of the attempts from my aunt, Carrie, and my own sister, and then my other aunt, which is my father's sister, she also made an attempt, but it was short-lived, because what people don't understand is that even when you do get placed with your kin or your family, they bear the burden financially and otherwise of caring for you. So although ideally you would want to be with your family, there's a cost factor. And then there's an adjustment and a life shift that has to happen with that person's life and living experience. So it's one of those things where, you know, you want to place the child, or you want to be placed with your family, but the reality is that they have to be able, financially, mentally, spiritually, you name it, in every gamut, they have to be able to accept and take you on, you know. And so when we finally were placed in foster care, the very first home that my two other siblings, my brother and my sister, were in with me, that was one of the most beautiful homes that one could have ever asked for. That was a special time for me and my siblings, whereas we learned culture, we learned the arts. I fell in love with playing the clarinet. I enjoyed being a brownie and, you know, a Girl Scout, going camping. I learned how to canoe. I learned how to pitch a tent. I learned how to ride a horse. I learned how to make a campfire. I mean, just so many various things that we were exposed to. And then church, we not only went to a Methodist church, we went to a Presbyterian church. And in the book, I talk about, you know, being on different auxiliaries. I was an usher there. And we also were avid readers. So I loved the library. We were surrounded by books. School was very, very paramount. She was a teacher. She was a special needs teacher. So she had a heart of gold, compassionate. She was very versatile. She was a phenomenal woman. And today she was able to sing in Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, German. The woman knew so many languages. And I would listen to Count Basie and various different blues and jazz artists. And I grew up very musically inclined and exposed to a lot. I knew my community. I knew what it was like to go to the YMCA and learn how to swim and do other cultural activities. I knew what it was like to know my neighbors, play with my neighbors, interact with my neighbors, and engage with my neighbors. And I'm not trying to put anything out there, but this is the honest to God truth. Mr. T, I used to have to pass his house. He had a purple house in Harvey. I used to have to pass his house to go to the library and to go to my church. One of the women who spoke at the church was Oprah Winfrey. Before she became real big and as big as she is now, she spoke at one of our women events, and I mentioned that in the book. So it was nothing for our family in this foster home. I call it the Harvey home. Well, Miss Treadwell was her name, Marilee Treadwell. She was very well rounded. She was a community personality. She was someone that knew various different people, engaged in all kinds of activities and all kinds of exposure. So that gave me a lot of my personality that you're seeing now, where I'm always involved in various different organizations and community. I got it from her. And that home was where I got rooted in learning about life, you know, learning how to grow vegetables, learning how to mow a lawn, cut grass, and do hedges. I learned how to make various different dishes throughout the seasons. Like right now, you're seeing, and We would go all out for Christmas. We will make peanut brittle, homemade ice cream. I remember going downtown Chicago, Michigan Avenue, Marshall Field, seeing the window displays and drinking hot cocoa and just enjoying the various different beauty of Chicago, beauty of Illinois. But that will soon change because we were going to our aftercare program where we will get dropped off at CETA. And CETA is like a community facility where they will help people with WIC and various different other assistance. But we will sit there and wait for the second van that will come and pick us up to take us to aftercare. And lo and behold, my father's sister worked there. And so we would see her and she would ask us how we were. And in our minds, we're thinking, well, let's tell her the worst part of our experience, hoping that we will go and get to move with family. And sure enough, she did what she could, and she ended up getting custody of us. And when she got custody of us, it's like she bit off more than she can chew, because she already had an adult son. And then she had two teenagers that were on their way to being grown-ups. And here it is, you get my brother, who at the time, he's been 5 years older than me. So he was also a teenager, same age as her son. And then my sister, she's 2 years older than I. She actually was about the same age as her daughter that was living there. And then there's me. Well, my aunt lifestyle was when she went to work, she worked, but she was a sanctified holiness sister that she lived the church. So, you know, they didn't get home till 12 midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So we weren't eating. We weren't in the structured environment that we were used to. Everyone fend for themselves in her home. But here you have these two little girls. At the time, I was 11. My sister was 13. But my brother, he was always in the streets because he was a baller. He used to play for the high school basketball, but he hung out with his friends. So he had his little social lifestyle, and he was always able to eat and get access to food. Me and my sister, not the case. So I would cut holes in my coat, and I would go to the local store, and I would steal to eat.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. And this is something that went on. We would either try to fry bread or by using flour and water and fry it in one of those, you know, skillets, the most disgusting things, you know, but mayonnaise sandwiches, whatever we can do to try to eat. And that was no way of living. And she did the best she could, but unfortunately it took a toll on her, and she had to release us back into the system. So that was short-lived. We couldn't go backwards to Mary Lee Treadwell's house. We had to go into a whole different environment. And that
but one thing that is really good is that you got a taste of the culture, the community, one who cared, one who was a person who had that status and never left you. So now, whatever happened after that point, you still had something in you to know that this is not it. Imagine if you didn't have that. I mean, I wouldn't want to imagine if you didn't have that. And just imagine how many who are shuttled back and forth to different foster homes never had that, and may have gone from bad to worse, the abuse, but at least you get that seed inside of you. And I think that's part of, I got to give you most of the credit, that seed that's in you from that, to know your value, know your worth, and to know that you can accomplish things, helped you through.
Absolutely. And that's what I really want to channel in with your viewers, your listeners, those who have ever been acquainted with a foster child, those who have been foster child, those who are rearing, raising, adopting foster children, is that what is necessary is stability. What is necessary for their lives is to have that acceptance, have that nurturing, have that guidance, and have exposure. You know, just because, you know, you've taken them into the home, you still have to, I feel, impart in them as though, you know, they came from you, they're a part of you now. So you embrace them, but you impart in them. You show them a variety of different opportunities, that something they're going to find to be their niche. And in my case, I liked mostly everything she exposed me to, but at the time I wasn't into the girly girl stuff. I wasn't into the Barbie dolls like my sister was, playing with Barbie dolls. I would prefer to go and play with skateboards. I liked playing video games. I liked, you know, because to me, I was emulating my brother. I wanted attention from my brother because I felt that, you know, I had been close to my father, but now my brother was the male figure and I was doing all I can to impress my brother. And so I wouldn't so much play with my sister too much. I was seeking affection and acceptance from my brother. And for me, I did discover the different talents that I possess even to this day. I love speech. I love to speak. And that came from me doing plays as a young girl, Easter Sunday, various different plays and performances for Christmas. I enjoyed going to the library, so I love to research. That is something that I get fascinated about, learning and discovering and uncovering different things. I love music. That's something that I adore. I enjoy it. That's my world. And so I learned, like you said, so many different things, but I would just say, if you happen to have, you know, a foster child, please expose them to a variety of different outlets, because those are outlets for us. Remember that we're taken from our cocoon, we're taken from our nurturing environment, and we're placed with strangers. These are absolute strangers that you have to live with. You have to adapt to their environment. You have to be able to be strong and, you know, comfortable in an environment that is unknown to you instantly, because you don't get to stay there and then leave. You have to live there, you know. So what hurts the most is the next home that we go to, the Jenkins home. That was the most horrific experience, and this book is really giving you the raw, the real experience, where a caseworker drops you off at a home that red flags were everywhere, Lance. Red flags were everywhere. And what is mind-boggling to me and what I don't understand is how they allow these foster parents to have multiple children with adults in them. And each foster child, they have a caseworker assigned to them. So this next home, you have me and my sister. We have now been split from our brother. My brother stayed in Harvey at a different home. Remember, my baby brother, he's still at the same home he originated with. But now me and my sister, we go to this home in the city of Chicago, South Side, from the suburbs to the South Side of Chicago. And we're in this home where it's us, and then you have 3 other children that are just a year or so under us. Then you have a whole family of 5 people, a father, a mother, and 3 children. Then you have another individual girl. Then you have another young man who's about to go off to the Navy, and then his brother. But then his brother brings his 2 children from time to time. They don't live there, but they come there. And then the foster parent, and then her brother with the home health aide. Now, are you dizzy yet? Can you keep up?
Yeah, but I have a question. With your brother, were you allowed, because I don't know how the system works really all the way, aside from what people tell me that I've known who were there, And I know state to state, there must be some differences. Were you allowed to keep in contact with him, like to call him on the phone? You were allowed, which was good.
Yeah, they have visitation. So the caseworkers will schedule times where they will have our parents at the agency waiting to see us. And we will not go to school that day because it's normally done on weekdays. And they'll pick my baby brother up first. We call him Leo in the book. And then they will pick myself and my sister and my brother up, and we will go and see our parents. And that's another aspect, Lance, that can you imagine knowing that you're about to see your parents, but you're children. So in your mind, you're thinking, we're going home. We're about to be returned back home.
And then you got to go back.
You know, the emotional turmoil that goes on in the hearts and mind of a child that doesn't understand the legalities of everything. They don't understand that there's a case plan that the parents have to follow in order for you to be returned back and reunified with your parents. All you know is that you get to go see your parents and you thinking it's time for us to be back home. But no, you go back to the same home, separated from your siblings, and you have to continue going on through life like this is the new way of living. And so I acted out a lot. You know, I acted out. I was very vocal in my I was very opinionated. People will call it defiance. I would just say that I just needed an understanding of what was going on. Why wasn't I able to remain with my parents? And it was just difficult. It was a difficult time.
Yes. Two statements I want to make on that. At the time that you had your brother with you under the same roof, and you trying to emulate him, you didn't really do the girly things with the dolls and stuff. I think that was also good because you had a male in your life that you can trust. I'm thinking when you said that, what if you didn't have that? Not that you didn't have sex, but you would have yearned for that male energy also righteously, where someone else who had male energy that was fraudulent could have groomed you. And I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, it happened to my sister. Unfortunately, at the next home, and she was able to get the courage to speak on it later in life. But certain activities did happen when we lived with my aunt. That she disclosed. And you got to remember my brother, I refer to him as LaTroy in the book. My brother, LaTroy, he was always involved in athletics, and he was on the basketball team for his high school. He was, you know, all around, all American. He played baseball and he played basketball. So he was never really home. He would always either be at practice, school, or friends. So the little time that he was around, it was not something that my sister and I really had him available, so to speak.
Understood.
And especially when we moved to the next home where my sister ended up being violated. Wow. So, yeah.
The other thing that this reminds me of, this type of emotional conditioning of being detached, being ripped away from, and the subsequent feeling of being numb.
Yes.
Kind of could help a person get into the substance abuse because of that. And it also reminds me of when we look back in slavery, how as us being property, we'd be ripped away from our parents, our family, and this week and next month or whatever. So it also, too, makes it easier for one to not be afraid of prison.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's an institution. It's an institution. It's a system. Yeah.
You get into a cell, you connect a while from a distance. Oh, got to leave now, move to another area. So us as a people overall, that's just one aspect that I don't think people know enough of to understand that it's not really a good thing. But go ahead, sister. I'm sorry.
No, you're onto something there, because that's basically what happens is you go from that transition of being in foster care, which is a system. Let's not, play it down. It is a system. To that's where a lot of the youth that age out of DCFS or Department of Children and Families, they end up going into the system because they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the tools, they don't have the resources to live their lives after foster care.
Right.
Because if they're not adopted, and if they don't take on, you know, various different vocations and aspire to become something else, then they're left to their own demise. And unfortunately, that's the direction that they end up going. But like you were saying, you know, being snatched away from your parents constantly or you know, ever so often, because they would let us visit our parents. I would say once, they try to get us once every month to visit our parents. And sometimes it'll carry over to 2 months. Yeah.
That's unacceptable. I mean, and even to be away 2 days away from your parents and go 5 days, you know, that's not enough. I mean, as a child, you want to be, and then you go home and you see the home and you feel at home, and then you're going to go to this other strange place that legally is your home. How confusing is that?
And most of the time it's you're going to agencies. So you don't upgrade sometimes to being allowed to go to your parents' home until you're of age. Because remember, we were underage. So they would have to supervise us at an agency whenever we would go and visit our mother, or whenever there was a court date. So that's important that you know that. But needless to say, they went ahead and put us in this home. And this home is where we knew the basement very well. So we were mandatorily to stay in the basement. If we weren't at school, we were in the basement.
Just like you take a dog in and just say, stay down there type thing.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because they bred dogs there. They bred Doberman Pinschers at this home. Guess who you think was feeding the dogs and dealing with the dogs that they bred?
You.
In addition to that, remember back in the 80s when they used to have house parties in New York, and they would pass out the pluggers, and you can go for 50 cents or $1? Guess whose house was the house that had the house parties?
Yours. Yeah. Where you were.
So, are those enough red flags for you? Are those enough red flags for you? Now, layer that with the fact that there was a fire there. There was a fire there. You remember those kerosene lamps?
Yeah.
That you will heat up. And we were upstairs like in the attic. So you know how cold those attics are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's carpet. So the fire department had to come to put out a fire where that family that I told you lived, the 5 people, they stayed in one room of the front of the attic of the home. And so that's traumatizing, because this is a fire in a home and you're thinking you're going to die because you see smoke everywhere.
Right.
And then the young lady that I shared a room with, I refer to her, I think as Penny in the book, but she had a daughter, an infant baby, and that baby died from natural crib death. So I'm beyond traumatized.
Yeah.
Beyond traumatized. And I would talk to, at the time, my best friend, she's still in my life. I would talk to her and her mother. I would try to, you know, confide in teachers at school. My teacher, Miss Copeland. I remember my science teacher. She became the assistant principal, Miss Green. I would just try to confide with anyone that will listen that this was not a healthy environment. I was becoming more aggressive and hostile. There was confrontations amongst me and other foster children that were just nagging, but the conditions weren't right for children. It wasn't. The foster parent was a chronic smoker, very wicked woman. She had some very disturbing and troubling ways, to say the least. And to know that she had a pedophile predator allowing him access to children, because what they would do is they will send us away to go play in the park, but he will keep my sister there and claim that she was babysitting his 2 younger kids. And that's where he will take advantage of my sister. I had no knowledge. I was destroyed when I found out. And it really took a toll on me, because I felt like, even though I'm the little sister, I'm very much taller than Latrice, and I'm very extroverted. She's very introverted. And when I learned that this happened to her, it very much shook me to the core. I went through various different levels of depression and guilt. I felt, because a lot of people, survivor's guilt. I felt survivor's guilt because it didn't happen to me, but it happened to her. So there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of pain. There was a lot of hurt. And all the red flags were there. And I keep saying that because every one of us had our own case worker or our own case manager. And my thing is that, why didn't they do a better job of investigating this home and popping up and showing up? And was there any reporting of the fire? When the infant child died, was that reported?
Right.
When these dogs are living in this home, even though they can put them in the garage, do you walk the whole house? Why don't you walk the entire house and see the living arrangements? As a guardian ad litem, that's what I have to do. When I visit with my families, I have to walk that perimeter. Backyard, front yard, garage, every room, bathroom. I have to go kitchen. I got to get all in your business.
That's right.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's right. And
you don't understand that when you don't do that, you've just created a victim. So this is the quote that I share with you and I have in my book. Mm-hmm. The worst kind of victim is the one that creates one.
Wow.
So you're creating victims because you're not understanding that predator, that pedophile was a foster child. He was now an adult. And just because he used to live with her when he was younger, she gave him access. And it's perpetuated. The sickness, these proclivities. And my thing is, in my book, I'm saying to myself, not only should you be doing a home inspection, you guys got to do a heart inspection. You can discern, you should be able to discern certain things. And then all of us have files. Each one of us as a foster child, you come with a file. There's information that's supposed to be in that file to alert you of what is this child's temperament, disposition, character, what do they like, what don't they like? I mean, everything should be written and kept.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Question. When you are a caseworker and you are handling the case of a child, do you have access to those other children's files just in case, especially when they are older teenagers in the house? You're a young girl, you have teenagers who are not yet the legal age to be, a man or so do you have access to seeing those things to see if there's going to be a bad mix? Or is it just that one child and your inspections eyeballing things to see and using your discernment is what lets you know there might be even a bigger problem?
So if they don't share the same agencies, you don't have necessarily access. I think things have changed now where it's more centralized based upon the region and the states. But back when we were in foster care, I don't believe, like the next family, I don't believe you have access to their files if they're not with the same agency. Because a lot of times foster homes, The parent can have an agency. ABC agency can be me and my sister's agency. Whereas this, the Simmons agency can be for the other set of children. So you may not necessarily have access to read their files because you're not in the same agency. But I think now, as time has gone on, because we're talking over 20 years ago for me.
Right.
But at this time now, I believe that it's more centralized and that there is opportunities for you to be able to know the various different other children that are in that home and get a read on what they have experienced or are experiencing. But that brings up a good point. I don't know without a shadow of a doubt if that's absolutely happening, but that's a good point that you make.
Yes, because
you got to match them right.
Say you have a 16-year-old young man and you have a 12-year-old. Big mixture, not just two, but you have, like you said, the 5 kids. You have some here, mixed up. He knows this is not my real sister. And she's like developing. And kids are here and there, maybe in the yard, whatever, and he's got an eye on her, waiting for an opportunity. You see what I mean? That's what I'm.
Yeah. It's all too unfortunate that these are some of the things that you have to consider when you take in a child, as well as when you're placing a child in a home. And sadly, like I said, some of the former foster children are allowed to come back into that home and into that environment, whether it's to visit or whether it's to, babysit. And that's the unfortunate side of this unfortunate experience, that this was a predator amongst us. And we didn't know. Myself, my sister didn't reveal it. She never shared it until she became able to do so in a safe environment that my elder sister was able to get us. And for me, I just know that that's something that we must pay attention to when you're getting foster children and placing them. If you do not have a sound feeling or a good feeling about a placement, don't put them there. But the thing about the case managers and case workers is the man hours that they put in just trying to find find a home for the child. And the way that I started thinking about it, Lance, is like, you see how in certain news forums that they showcase the child and they're basically advertising the child.
Yeah.
This child is a 16-year-old male, loves to, draw. You're advertising the child like a product, right? And you want them to be matched with a great family, which is ideal. That's the way it should be. But like I said, you don't know who's coming and going in that home on any given time. You don't know what's going on.
Right. It doesn't take but a split second, and even to groom over time and trust and next door neighbors or friends of the family. Let's take everybody on a trip. Let's go to the amusement park. Or you want to go to the bathroom? I'm taking you to the bathroom. But they end up in the van. It's just, I've heard it being a corrections officer. Some of the real things that happen, some of the things that people were accused of, and some of the real things that, I talked to some of these guys and, they talk to me and this thing is real and it's even more prevalent than most would know. Even the world that you're exposing and sharing with us, I didn't know it was so, just the different factors plus the emotions. I mean, how do you come out in one piece after this? That's why I see it's a miracle. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, I was going to tell you that, that's another aspect of it, that you have to have a good psyche. You have to be able to make a connection with a psychiatrist. You have to. And we didn't start seeing a psychiatrist until like around the fourth home. When we became teenagers, myself and Latrice, we went to a home where, like you said, we needed to have an outlet. We needed to have someone to talk to about our pain, about our experience, because at this point, you know, you're in the system 7+ years, 8+ years, and it's the same cycle. You go see your parents, but nothing's changed. You go before the courts, there's no reunification happening. So that means that your parents haven't done the necessary work to get you back. And so that means that you're staying in placement. You're staying in foster care. And my mother was not relinquishing her rights, nor my dad. So that meant that there was no opportunity for adoption. But over the years, you know, we were placed in various different homes that you knew, again, was not right. We lived in a home where the woman was grieving the loss of her son, her only son, who committed suicide. Why would you place two traumatized, vulnerable girls in a home? And this woman spent majority of her time weeping. So I felt like I was in a perpetual funeral. I didn't want to be in that house.
Yeah. Right,
I was climbing the walls. And she and I butt heads because I had to get out of there. The whole home, the spirit of the home was heaviness, sadness, depression. And this is the home we go to immediately after my sister was experiencing that. And mind you, I still didn't know. So our only escape was, at the time, my aunt and had gotten reconnected with us and my cousin, and we were allowed to visit with them. And then because of our age, we started being able to spend weekends with my parents and summers. And that was a whole nother world. Then you got to realize why you weren't able to stay with your parents, because my father was trying to give me Wild Irish Rose at 13. And they lived over a lounge that didn't close until 6 in the morning.
Oh, man.
And so my dad spent all of his days alongside the laundromat, sitting down in a chair with his drinking buddies. So that was my reality. I got to know the gangbangers. I got to know all of the, you know, the drug dealers, the real nightlife, because I really didn't have a curfew. And I thought that was freedom.
You had a lounge downstairs. So with your father hanging out with his drinking buddies, the lounge is there. There are women coming in. So
yeah,
targets there.
Fight, a lot of altercations, a lot of cursing. But again, they allowed us to visit our parents. A caseworker had to come and approve that. They had to go upstairs and check it out and make sure it was a good living arrangement for us. And after all, we weren't going to be placed permanently, but we were going to be allowed to visit. And this was a 1-bedroom that my parents had. And that was something. And I understood more and more then why we weren't allowed to return back to them. So I used that time as best I could, gleaning from my mother about her life, about my uncles and my aunts, my grandmother. Same with my dad. I would just use that time wisely to get to know them as individuals, get to know a little bit more about my family history, because I believe that being a foster child, unfortunately, your life is interrupted and you lose the sense of belonging. You lose your identity. Yes. You can lose your heritage. And a lot of children may or may not have the ability to have access to their parents or their relatives. And I was fortunate enough to have that. And I used that time to the best of my ability to learn more about my family, to get to know my parents, to get to understand them. And I feel that it's valuable. It's so valuable, that time that you get to spend with your parents. But, you know, they would never get us back. And in a way you understood because they were broken. My mother suffered from multiple personalities and schizophrenia. I didn't know what that was. I didn't understand that. But I knew she suffered from nervous breakdowns and she was on a lot of medication. And I knew that when she mixed the medication with alcohol, that was not good. I knew that they would have to at times put my mother in the psych ward for weeks on end because she would experience some, psycho, I guess, situations. And my father was still being the abuser. But there are times where he and I had altercations because I was now almost taller than him. I'm 5'9". And I got to a place where I was not going to allow my dad to disrespect my mother in my presence. And that's something that shocked him because he's the one that taught me how to shoot a rifle at 5. He's the one who taught me how to fight. And now I'm a weapon that is going against him and saying, no more, you're not going to do this.
That's right.
Not in my presence.
That's right.
So it was rough. It was hard, because I was taught to honor my mother and honor my father. And you don't get to pick your parents, but you still need to honor them. I'm a strong believer in that. And I needed to understand this mental illness aspect of what my mother was suffering from. And I got a little bit of her history as well. And I learned that my mother was violated by a family member that was married into the family. This comment that I'm making right now is very controversial amongst various different relatives because you're going to always have those that are going to defend someone's reputation.
And denial. Mm-hmm.
Right. But you're not going to dismiss my mother's pain. You're not going to dismiss her experience, and you're not going to diminish her value just because she is schizophrenia. Because if anybody knows the psyche, most people that have schizophrenia, it's because of a trauma. And yeah, there's chemical imbalances. There's variations of medical reasons and rationale, but why does she become different personalities? To hide what? A violation, something that happened to her, a trauma that happened to her. Yeah. So I got to know my mother. She knew that she wasn't believed. She knew that there's various family members that were making her feel that she wasn't a victim. And so I learned real quick that my mother disassociated herself from various relatives. And for that reason. And when she was sober, when she was, herself, she would give me warnings of various members of the family and their perception of her. And she would always tell me that this is my truth. This is what happened to me. And I understood her better. I didn't know how to help her. I just didn't know how to help her. But I understood that she was dealing with some things that was beyond her capability to handle. And therefore, she wasn't in a place to be able to take care of us. My sister Latrice, she had a very difficult time getting along with my father and my mother because she was in so much pain from what she experienced that she blamed them for many years for what had happened to her. And the healing process, you had brought that up, the healing process required a lot of therapy. So my sister and I started going to therapy after we left the home. I call it the depressive home. We left that home and we went to move with a bailiff, She was a correctional officer or a bailiff, but she worked actually as a bailiff for the 26 in California, which is the main prison in the South in Chicago. And she had a son who was a addict. At the time, I was so naive and ignorant. I thought he had diabetes because he would shoot up. I didn't know that was drugs. And he would steal from me and my sister. She had a license to carry, so she kept the gun in the safe. And her room was literally the living room. And I'm wondering, you keeping your stuff locked up, but you don't give us a lock to keep our things, our necklaces and our jewelry and our money. And he's coming in our room when we're at school and he's stealing from us to go get some heroin or whatever it is he was smoking or whatever he was shooting up. And so that home was challenging because of her being in the, in the law enforcement aspect. She felt the need to be overly protective. And at this time, I'm growing up, I'm becoming a young lady. Back in those days, teen pregnancy was on the rise, 87, 88, those years. And some of my classmates were already on their first child. My best friend was in the process of being married at 17. I went to school with drug dealers. My classmates made more money than the teachers.
Oh, wow.
That was the norm. And the gangs in Chicago, it's ridiculous, and crime. So she was overly protective of us. And it got to the point where she would see me hanging out with one of the girls that I would walk to school with, but the girl was pregnant. And because her own granddaughter was part of the teen pregnancy, she had a child at a young age. She just knew that I was the next target, that I was fast, as they say.
Yeah. Continue on. I just want to grab some water. I should have had it with me. Just continue on.
No worries. So needless to say, a lot of times when you're in these homes, you basically experience being judged. And remember, I was just telling you earlier that you're a file. So every foster home you go to, a caseworker is literally writing things about you so that when the next foster parent gets you, they're reading whatever the case manager has written from the other home. And so by now you have this history of me being hard to handle, being known to be difficult. And for me, it's like you didn't get the chance to get to know me as a person. You look at me as I'm a file. You never sit down and ask me what I like, what I don't like, what will I like to do for fun? What do I do at school? You just treat me at arm's length and then judge me based upon your own experiences with your own grandchild or those who you interact with in your occupation, which is criminals. So because I start having phone calls from males, you associate me being active with these gentlemen. And when do I have time to do that? If you are always hovering over me, I only have so many hours in the day to go to school. And if I'm ever truant or late, you're getting a phone call. So when am I able to even have experience with sex or anything like that? So to me, it became where they wasn't treating me as a person or my sister as a person or individual. It was more like a project or a responsibility that they didn't have a connection with us, Lance. There was no familial connection. It was, they live here. I give them a sleeping quarters. They're fed. I make sure that they have what they need. And I watch them and make sure that they're following my rules. You don't have a relationship.
But you were like inmates.
Correct.
It carried on as the same thing.
Yep.
And just think of the amount of households where it may not be a foster situation, but it's that same way. There are many parents or single parents or, you know, two-parent households who feel that way about their own blood children.
Mm-hmm.
What's love? What's interest in what you like? What's interest? What's the interest that I need to have to know your dreams? You have food, you have clothes, you have a roof over your head. You better be glad I put you in the best. Which, if you don't have that as a child, or even as an adult, that connection is needed. So again, the more that you speak is the more that I know that this is something divine. Not that the pain was divine, but for you to be where you are today, to be able to accomplish so much and just be that voice, you know?
Yeah, it's very hard. It's a hollowness in some of these homes, and it's very cold. It's a very cold experience. It's my children and my family, I thank God for them. They recognize that sometimes it's hard for me to hug my children sometimes. And it's not that I don't want to. I love my children. You know I go the bat for my children. Yes. But you have to understand there's a little bit of a rigidness because you don't have people hugging you and kissing you and telling you you're loved. And no matter what you're going through, they have you. They're going to take care of you. They're embracing you. I didn't have that. You see, each home, it was just rigid, you know, discipline. And this is the aspect of fostering that I really want to impart and impact those who are thinking about this journey or going through this journey. The word foster means to encourage, promote, and develop greatness in someone. So if you're going to foster a child, it's a relationship that you have to develop, and you have to gain understanding to get that trust, to help that child become vulnerable and free to be themselves and to articulate what they're experiencing and to know that that's a safe place. They're not a paycheck. They're not a burden or a chore or a project. They're human beings that deserve love. They deserve to be nurtured and to be in a safe home. And they need to be with people that are qualified to give them that.
Oh man. You know, I was afforded and gifted a pretty good home, but my brother was always a thorn in my side. But I saw situations, and I was revealed a lot of life through my father, who showed me situations, and my mother, who told me about things. He sat me down, you know, gave me a better insight to have compassion on those other houses that housed, I won't say homes, because some of them are just houses.
Exactly.
They were nuclear families or foster care, to just have a deeper insight as to what they might be going through, or to have a little compassion for them, have them sometime during the holidays or just Saturdays, or my mother would tutor different people and just not charge, or, you know, that was the kind of home that I had. And my heart goes out for those people that I know growing up that didn't have as much, because I know some situations in my particular block and a lot of overcomers. There was one father that was such a womanizer that when he had his women over the house, he locked his kids in the garage. Lots of times when he was going to pick up his sons, it wasn't just because he wanted to pick them up. He was looking to pick up some of their classmates. So anybody who knows me knows who I'm talking about, but I've seen these things and it made me shudder, because it's like, how would I handle something like this? And then to go and just change in another situation here and there. There were a lot of situations I observed. And that's why I feel that it's my mission to just, when you have a story like this, or anybody else, whether they're still in it or it's the past or something going through, you know, we have fun on this show, but we have to deal with these issues. And a lot of us, we need each other. You just don't know what a person's going through. You might see, they may see you now. Oh, she's an author, she's a wife, and she's a mother, and she's this, and she has an act together. Look, she's in a nice home. Not knowing that when you're in that home, I'm not going to say the word flashbacks, but you carry this thing. Things will trigger you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said sometimes it's hard to hug your own child.
Yeah.
You still have to deal with these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk to me, sister. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate you, taking time to just walk me through some of the things you were even exposed to. And
yeah, well, look at my brother. Look at my brother.
Yeah.
I would wake up and my home was not that kind of home. My brother was only allowed to come back if he was straight with himself.
Correct.
You know, and then there were times when I remember it had to be when I was 6 years old, I think, and 7 years that I was getting ready for school. And again, this was not this type of home. But when he came, his whole spirit came. He would be all right for a while. And then all of a sudden he'd start to manifest stuff. He's back on that. He's out because there's aspects of, it wasn't just throw him out, but they worked with him for so much, and he kept, doing stuff. And that's what gave me another insight as to how he manipulated my mother. She had a weak spot for him that way. She always had hope for him, and he prostituted that hope that she had by always coming around like, I'm going to make it this time, Ma. So and so and so. And she would do anything for him. Yeah. I remember waking up to go to the school. I had a drawer for this, a drawer for that, had a drawer for my socks and underwear. I reach for different underwear, and I look and I see a gun, needles. Yeah. Just different things that I remember waking up because we had the same room when we first moved to that house. And he was gone most of the time. I remember waking up and seeing him shooting up. But again, that wasn't that type of house. So it was more of a, like, this doesn't happen here. Yeah. When my mother let him move back into the house and he was in the attic, and I'd come around to check up on things, and I caught wind in the street that stuff was going on. He was back on that stuff even bad. And I waited downstairs, and this will take a minute, but I'm just going to finish over this.
No, take your time.
Yeah. I go upstairs. I sneak upstairs. She was on the second floor. He was in the attic, third floor. So I snuck up there, took my time, because I saw that he was throwing the keys from the attic downstairs, and there were people tipping up and going upstairs. I counted like 15 people. I'm like, what the hell's going up there?
Wow.
So I went there to do some business.
Of course.
A Carhartt top on. I had some gloves on. I had sweats on, 2 of them. I had my Timberlands on, and I was never a thug type of guy, but I was thugged out because I was going to run through that place. And I tiptoed up, and I went upstairs, and there was like the steps and a little wall in the attic where the attic was, and I peeked over that little part, and I saw a Korean man, a white man, 3 black men smoking, girls servicing them right then and there. And as my eyes adjusted, and the smell of private parts, the smell of crack, the smell of liquor breath, just sweat. And I flicked the light switch on, and I was like, I did just like this. Party's over. Oh, and they had to pass me. And all I remember is just slamming people, kicking them down the steps, slamming them. Wow. My mother came. I said, Ma, go in the room. Everything's all right. It's me. Yeah. Yeah. Getting out
like a bouncer.
And I've done that kind of work, but I've never worked my hands that hard in my life. And just to see my mother, she had a stroke.
Wow.
Come on, how you going to do that? And I emptied the place out. And it was like I was crying when I was doing it. Yeah. Because you see, now, more so, like, I've always questioned myself with my amorous past, never as a predator toward women, but just in that world. Now I can see where, and I was speaking to a few people about it the other day, I said to myself, I grew up in a loving, kind home. Those kind of things weren't common. But now I could see why I ran. I said, okay, I'm not doing drugs. I'm not doing this. I'm not. So women became my drug.
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't running after them to hurt them and, you know, whatever.
No.
It was like, it was consensual. You know what I mean? But it was too much.
Yeah.
But all aspects of any of this, foster home, the things that can happen there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you live next door to a foster home, you are part of that because you have to deal with all of the trauma,
Everything.
which you should help the youngsters. You should whistleblow if you see something that's not right.
Correct.
As see, I did grow up where the majority of the households there, they were on point.
Mm-hmm.
Still things happen. And we as Black people, this trauma and this pain, I have to say, comes directly from that period when we were brought here. And okay, just because we're set free to go and work a job and you have a house now, you have a car now, it's just like the foster parent who says, well, I have to have a roof over your head. You got good food. No, we're still damaged, passed on generation to generation to generation up to now. We have special needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to be as strong as we are, and for you to be as strong as you are, to be as strong as you are throughout all of this, I just hope, pray that one day it all can be out of you. You're never going to forget it. But I'm looking at your face, and I'm very good with faces.
Mm-hmm.
Subtleties and the changes and expressions. I saw a lot of pain when you were recalling a lot of this. You see? And I wish and I wanted out of you before we transition.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing a wonderful work. I just had to rant for a second. Go ahead, sister.
No, it's you're on point, and you're expressing some things and actually leading up to the next aspect of my foster care experience, because as you well know, I didn't get to make it like my sister did through that home. That's the Turner home where we were living, where she's the bailiff. So she and we butt heads because it was presumed that I was fast. And I'm asking myself, how am I fast? At this time, I'm a junior in high school and I'm still in the band. And my band teacher actually was an actor. You may recall him from the movie Soul Food. He was Uncle Joe that found the money upstairs. So his name is John Watson. He was a trombone player. He played in Groundhog's Day. He played in The Fugitive. He was an actor, but he also was a musician. And I had the blessing of playing at Hirsch High School, first clarinet. And so I was involved in various different curriculum, extracurricular activities. And I just liked hanging around guys because I was the type of girl that I had one fight in grammar school with a girl who used to bodybuild. She had 3 brothers. And I just never liked gossip. I never liked drama. That just was not my forte.
Right.
But I like hanging out with guys because there's really no drama. They talk about sports. They talk about, cars and things that, didn't require me to have to defend myself, because at the time, I wasn't able to dress like the girls. I wasn't able to wear the labels and the in style clothing because I got an $80 stipend. That was peanut money. So in high school, I wasn't, able to run with the cute girls because I wasn't able to dress as well as they. So I just had to own my own representation and do the best I can. But she assumed because I was having calls from guys and I didn't want to start dating. And she actually had me court a guy by bringing his father to the house. He came and then he had to ask permission to take me to the movie theater. So those were the kind of things that she started doing with me. But long story short, she and I didn't get along because I was not willing to be in this woman's home and be assumed that I was involved in having relationships that I wasn't having and doing things that I wasn't doing. And I felt like if you weren't going to be able to trust me, why would I want to live here? And on top of that, you have your son here violating me by taking things that don't belong to him. And yet you want to criminalize me, but you're not doing anything to stop him. So at this point, she calls the caseworker and I'm out. And they moved me to another home away from my sister. So the next home was even worse because I'm now with a single mother who has a grown son, who has a 17-year-old daughter, who has her own daughter of 2. Then they have 3 other siblings. So her and the mother had toddlers together. Her daughter was 2, her mother and her brother was 3. Then she had other children, like 3 other children. One of the little boys had gangrene because the mother was an addict and she never gave the young boy insulin because he had sugar. So his feet was raw, Lance. I'm talking with pus oozing out with the gangrene. Okay. So these are all traumas that I had to bear witness to in my living in foster care. Seeing his sister try to mother him. And you knew that he probably would have had to get amputation because when I tell you it was gangrene with pus coming, oozing out of his feet. He could not wear shoes. So he wasn't given the right medical attention.
And he was probably eating not good either, just like eating bad, you know, just no care at all.
They neglected that young boy. They abused that young boy. And he was jumping off the walls. And that's another thing. A lot of these children are not properly placed because they're living with people who themselves are damaged, Lance. If I can't convey anything else, but to tell you, most of these women had their own issues. There's no perfect family. There's dysfunction in all families. But if you're going to remove a child from their own hell, do not place them in someone else's.
That's right.
If I can't communicate and convey anything, but do not do that. Don't further traumatize and further damage children because you just have to get this case off your books or off your file cabinet. You know, so in this home, there's teenage girls. So there was more than 14 people living in the house. If I go through all the people that was living in this house, we'll be here all night. It was 14.
What was this house? I mean, how many bedrooms were there? How many bedrooms were there?
It was like a mansion. So this house was about 6 bedrooms.
That's still not enough for 14 people.
Plus it had an attic and then it had a basement. But remember, some of them were sharing rooms. So you had 2 teenage girls in one room, the 3 toddlers and young kids in another room. Then you had 2 others upstairs. I had my own room. The son had his own room. So what I'm saying is that they don't have a limit almost of putting kids in homes that they just feel like, okay, they have enough space, they have enough room, let's just put them in here. So you have mostly all girls. So we were teenagers at the time. I thankfully was still going to the same high school with my sister and my cousin. But there was some very how can I put it? It was some very.
I see the ingredients. I already know.
There was some very disturbing things going on in this home. From the foster mother and her way, she was very manipulative, very cunning. Her son played the authoritative person, but he was very mean. Extremely obsessed with himself, arrogant, very vain. He thought that he can control even his mother. So he ran the house.
Yeah.
There was hostility and volatility. There was a lot of sneakiness going on. Underhand, cunning, all kinds of things. There was some vicious, cruel things happening to me where there was a lot of jealousy, where when I would be getting ready for dinner, they would be in the kitchen preparing it. And one time I caught them putting rat poison and bleach in my drink. What? And I thank God for allowing me to get down there right in time to see them do this. The way the house was made, the staircase was in the center of the home. So you can go either to the right through the living room and the dining room, or you can go to the left alongside the corridor to walk right into the kitchen. Instead of going that way, I took the longer way where there's a wall that I can just peek around and I can see the kitchen and I can see if someone's doing something in the kitchen. I happened to go that way and I saw them and I hear them saying, hurry up before she comes. And I just thank God that he allowed me to witness what they were doing. I had to play it off, Lance. And this is another thing about foster care, because a lot of people don't understand. Why didn't you report it? Why didn't you run away? Let me tell you something. Once you reach a certain age in foster care, you go into a group home. If they have to keep putting you in different houses because the parent is complaining about you, you're going to head over to a group home. So there is a worse fate than what I was experiencing. So in my mind, I had to use wisdom and I had to think about it. I'm like, I either can go off or I can fake like I'm taking this food to my bedroom and ask, can I study, and throw it in the toilet and come up with a plan so that while I'm in this home, I will never eat again. I will never eat here again. And surely that's what I did. And at the time, I had already been affiliated with my best friend's cousin before. He was gang affiliated. I started getting to know gang members, Lance. That's how I started surviving in that house, is that I started learning all the different gangs, because depending upon what street you walk through or you go through in Chicago, you have vice lords here, gangster disciples here, Latin kings here. So I started getting to know all my gangs because they were my village. So I started dating gang members / drug dealers. That's how I got to eat.
Right. But I don't blame you in those circumstances. I don't blame you.
And I would tell you, it was survival for me. I was in survivor mode. And I got a job at 15 working at a social service, A.S. McKinley. And that's how I got income that summer, to be able to manage to feed myself and buy clothes. But during that time, the foster mother was trying to push me to get on birth control because her daughter had had a child 2 years back. And they thought that I was sexually active. So once again, something in my file is making these foster parents think that I'm promiscuous or I'm doing something. I was still a virgin. I hadn't been sexually active, but she felt the need to put me on birth control. And that's another thing about the foster care experience, is that you don't really have a say, Lance. They can dictate and determine what you will and will not do.
I mean, to put that on your file, something to insinuate that you're active with no proof.
Correct.
I mean, since they're treating you like a piece of meat anyway, then, check you out, which is demeaning to see. But but that's on your file, so it's just like you did it already, like you've been doing it. Correct. I would rather have them take me. You didn't have a choice in it. But I'd rather deal with that humiliation than them putting something in the file that follows me now. And that's not right to do. That's accusing you of something that wasn't right.
All because I'm having conversations and I'm associating with boys. You make this judgment call. And because you have a granddaughter that had children or a daughter that had children out of wedlock and at a young age. So this is what I was dealing with. And then keep in mind, the former foster parents, this is another thing. They get the number of the new foster parent, or the new foster parents get the number of the former foster parents. So they keep a hotline going and they talk about you to one another to prepare each other for your so-called behaviors.
Damn.
So it can be on a good note if you have a good foster parent to learn the child, but then it can be on the negative when you have foster parents that's making assumptions about you and presumptions about you that are not right, that are so far in the left field.
You're being demonized.
Yeah. So in this case, I told my brother, LaTroy, he literally was able to drive over to this house and confront them and tell them, my sister is nothing like your daughter. Do not put my sister on birth control pills. She's not like that. And they had an altercation. My brother was asked to leave. And because of that, you know, there was more like a Cinderella, Black Cinderella experience where they switched out on me and they started demonizing me, mistreating me, verbally attacking me. And she made sure that she took me to the clinic and put me on ortho 777s. So I'm a $115, Lance, at this time. I am 14 years old, going on 15 years old. All of a sudden, I go from 115 pounds to 186 pounds.
I know that, yeah. That's not fair.
On top of that, I'm being humiliated because I don't have proper clothing. People are assuming that I'm pregnant because I got to be so big so quickly. And then it's like my whole world, I'm destroyed. I'm depressed. I'm suffering from yeast infections. I'm dealing with all of this on top of being in a foster home that they are literally trying to kill me. They're insulting me verbally, emotionally, mentally, every aspect of it. I only got to see my sister, thankfully, when I go to school, and my cousin. And at that time, I would ask them to get me lunches from their friends so that I can eat.
Right.
So what I'm basically telling you is that was hell for me. And by then, I felt like if you gave me, to me, that was consent. I had no other place to go at this point. I might as well do what they claim I was doing in the first place. And like you said on other shows, it's just by God's grace that I survived that season of my life. But thank God it was short-lived. And one visit took me to an agency where my sister was human resources for the agency. That's how God flipped this whole thing upside his head. I'm not going to give all of the juicy details away, but what I will tell you is I've never prayed so hard in all my life, but closets were my friend. I would go inside closets and pour my heart out to the Lord. I would journal. I would write out my pain. I will talk to God about my troubles. I would seek him for guidance, and thank God we kept, being exposed to church and, the word of God. In certain homes, I wasn't going to church as actively as I was in other homes. That last home I wasn't, but I can honestly tell you, I kept my faith, and that's what kept me strong. That's what gave me the willpower. My motivation came from my cousin, my aunt, even my father and my mother. They knew that I was one who would champion through. They knew that, I would try to make a bad situation into the best situation. And that's what I would say to any foster child that's going through an experience that they don't feel they can be free, they can be safe. There has to be a teacher somewhere. There has to be someone, a friend's parent, someone that you can talk to, that you can reach out to, someone that you can trust if you're going through difficulties. And a lot of times you want to say, yeah, tell the caseworker, report this to the case manager. But on another side, I have to tell you, Lance, is that's difficult because that means there's more work for that individual to find a new home for you, a new placement. So it's kind of like a catch-22, because if you unload on them, then they have an obligation to try to seek, a resolution or a placement for you. But they first have to investigate it with the very parent. You see how that works? So
Yeah.
it's just like everything is an investigative process. Meanwhile, the victim or the child is still in that environment. You don't know. I have trust issues, as you can imagine. I have the most heightened discernment you can ever ask for, because I can sense someone's spirit, aura, energy like that. Because remember, it's like being in boot camp. You instantly taking out of your world into a whole nother world and environment. And you have to adapt. You have to learn how to transition. You have to immediately know how to assess, make a determination. What should you do? What shouldn't you do? How should you do? Why should you do this? I mean, your whole mental state goes into survival mode in foster care. And like you say, there are triggers. There's certain things that I don't sleep well at night. So I'm up at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I don't have a complete night's sleep. And if I'm in an environment that is unknown to me, it's like I go back and regress into that state. So when I stay at a hotel, that type of mindset is still there, that I'm in an unknown environment, in an unknown place. Don't get comfortable. I've slept with knives under my pillow in many of these homes for fear of being attacked or touched. I've had to make a lot of threats to a lot of people. I've had to fight and defend myself a lot of times. And believe it or not, I'm a tomboy more so because I didn't want people coming for me.
That's right. That's right. That's another aspect that many women who I've known that were violated, that went into another lifestyle that they really maybe weren't into, but the whole garb, the baggy clothes, they're trying to hide their breasts by having the things to push, and to walk a certain way where you don't see the hips and you know, the tomboy stuff going on. I'm not saying in every case, but I've spoken to people where they had to go, that was their thing, and they weren't into that all the way, but it was like, listen, you know, if I'm viewed a certain way, there's some of them I knew that if I didn't know them, I thought they were like boys, guys, you know. This is normalcy for you. It's not paranoia.
No.
It's the environments that you've been in. So I have a touch of that in me too, you know, always looking around, and you know, it's well known on my show. I won't tell it here, but I understand you 100%. And that heightened sense of discernment came out of that. But it's a sharpened blade that will cut through life now, where you can see the BS before it comes to you.
Correct. I have my radar. I have a radar. And it's a lot that foster children take on, to say the least. And what my goal is to be a voice that asks those to step up in any capacity that you feel that you need to step up, whatever that needs to be. But as a foster child, I will urge and I will encourage to find an outlet, find a way to express what you're experiencing, get it out of you, the brokenness, the pain, the hurt, the emotional trauma, the mental trauma, whatever, physical traumas, any and all traumas. You have to have a safe place to release that. It's so important because it will carry over. And one of the things I did, Lance, is I did, and I talk about it in my book, I did like a detox. Because environments, see, you yourself, you bring an environment wherever you go. We call it energy. So you bring your aura, you bring your environment wherever you go. And can you imagine you're going into all these different environments? And so every environment has a different energy, a different vibration. a different exposure, and it's going into you. It's a part of you, because your home is what your home is, your sacred sanctuary, right? That's supposed to be a sacred sanctuary. It's supposed to be a haven of the heart, a place of peace, a place of solitude, a place of serenity, a place of joy, of love, of safety, protection, right? That's what a home should be. Some of the attributes of a home. And a lot of these homes, they don't represent that. They didn't represent that. So for me, I had to detox from all of those placements that I've had, that I've lived in. So I would tell anyone, you know, step up, speak up about what you experience, and then stand up for the rights of foster children, knowing that you're not alone. You have the ability to change your narrative and to change your future. And find resources, find a community, find your village. I thank God I was exposed to social services all my life. And in being exposed to social services, it just gave me an extension of having a hand up, not a hand out, but a hand up, to learn what my true identity is. Because yes, that's a label and a stigma that will follow me. I can never say I wasn't a foster child, because I was. I will not deny that part of who I am. But I will say to anyone, you're so much more than that. You're so much greater than that. And I truly appreciate you, Lance, for allowing me this opportunity to slow walk you all through my journey. It ended so greatly. It ended so miraculously, so marvelously. To God be the glory. I am still a part of my sister's life. She is still an adoptive parent. She's still a 34+ year foster mother. She's doing this. This is her calling. This is her assignment. Yes. And I'm just on the other side. I'm doing the advocacy for it, and I'm pushing and promoting this for all foster children.
But just know you don't have to thank me, sister. I have to thank you. I have to thank you, because with your gift of discernment, you chose this platform to come on, and that's the ultimate compliment. You're a phenomenal woman. I love you righteously.
Thank you so much.
A lot, and you're appreciated. And I want everybody in here in the chat room to say something, write something. If you're listening to this particular program after it goes up as a video, I don't care how long a comment you want to leave. You can write a book in that bad boy. But just, I'm looking at you and I'm feeling you. And
Thank you.
And you told us the short version. You gave us a few snippets. And I want everybody to have this book. Everybody who listens to this show should have this book. This is not like a hustle where, oh, she came on, so I'm just going to try to help her. So, no, this is mandatory reading in every household, because she poured out her soul. She said things that maybe others weren't able to say. It's not a crime if you're not able to say it.
No.
Because we all have different temperaments and different personalities. But you're that one, you know, it's almost like when the sperm hits the egg, and it's that one sperm that went out of all that may have fallen to the wayside of drug addiction and different lifestyles where they're hurting themselves, and depression and the trauma, and they're looping around. Sometimes you go through this stuff and it's like your mind can't focus on anything, and it just loops over and over, and they're stuck in this place.
Yeah.
But you were here. You were chosen for this, I mean, the fact that you love to read in the library, and you had a taste in that household that brought up your love of culture and the value of yourself, and you never gave up on yourself. You never gave up on yourself at all. You came through your children, and all those children who you've taken as children by affecting them in their life. You endured to be protectors over them, to have certain things not happen.
Yeah.
You are the one that bridged the gap. Like with me, I have a brother, but he's not doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do the right thing to bridge the gap from my parents to my kids and all those who are around me. So that's a very important assignment that you have. And I just, I mean, I can say so much, but you're totally appreciated. I want you to come back. not like 6 months from now. If there's any topic or you see something on the news, like say, I'm just suggesting current events, and you see something similar to what you've been through, since that stuff is trending, come on in and talk about it, that aspect. And yes, we're going to push the book. You took the time to give people knowledge that they would never have, an awareness, and you've sacrificed your life to put that book there. No matter what, we're all transition. Even after, I want you to live a long life, but you know we're all going to go.
Yeah, life's a vapor.
Yeah, but that book is going to be left back. It's going to be sitting on somebody's coffee table and helping them, and they say, "Man, who was this woman? This great woman."
I like how you say we have to leave this world empty. And I have on my vision board, because I do vision boards, and I have on my vision board, don't just be a lady, be a legend.
That's right.
That's right.
But you know what? That's what you are already. You've earned that already.
Thanks.
You've earned that already. And I'm going to use your name and talk about in a good way on shows. You're going to be listening to you say, wait a second, he meant that. Now I didn't know a lot of these things, and I know a lot. But certain aspects, the realities and whatnot, and you just touched on certain points. Let's find a way to get the book out. Well, how can we get the book?
So the book is available now. It's on Amazon. It is available to be ordered on my website. I believe you're going to have it posted there. I also will share that it is
website right now, so I can put it in the chat room right now.
Oh, okay. So it's
screen open. I have the other ones open.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. I know it's in Barnes and Noble as well as like Target, Walmart, and of course Amazon, and then you can get it on Kindle as well. But it's my name, Tina L, just the initial L, Horton, Horton, and then it's hyphen Quant, like you have it, but then it's .godaddysites.com. And it's $9 on Kindle, $15 paperback. And I appreciate it. I cover more than just foster care. I talk about, generational curses. I talk about family matters and why families are important, and what the symbol of the eagle means, and soar. What does soar, to soar? What does that mean, in life? And so I want, people to understand it's a quick read, but it's also a labor of love.
Wow, it's going to be spinning around in my head all night. I mean, yeah, okay. I'm going to doctor it up and put a lot of the links in the information area below, description area below. So if it's not there now, after this goes up as a video, I'll make sure to have everything in there. And we're going to keep pushing this. I want to make a page on my site where I have all the creations of the guests that come on, and I want yours on top. Yeah. Every young lady. No, seriously. I'm not gassing you up. You know how I talk. I'm real that way.
You're very sincere and genuine when you speak. And if I can just say one scripture, Lance, Psalm 10:17-18 is, from the Message Bible. This is one of the scriptures that really hits home for foster children. And it says in verse 17 that the victim's fate, pulse, pick up, the hearts of the hopeless jump and pumps red blood as you put your ear to their lips. Orphans get parents, the homeless gets homes. The reign of terror is over. The rule of the gang lord is ended. And that's just so fitting, because you just want orphans, you want foster children to get parents, and you want them, most importantly, to get homes. And that's my prayer. That's what I saturated my book with, is that is the ultimate outcome. And I pray that for all of those who are experiencing what I've experienced.
I dropped a link for Barnes and Noble. That's a live link that anybody can click now and after. I see the Amazon link right here. I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to drop it in. And like I said, I'm going to order. Well, I'm still going to order it tonight, even though I have an advantage.
You do. You
You know,
surely do.
yeah, and that meaning that, you know, certain amenities you've given me, but those are the links that we can hit. Let's hit those links. You know, we go to the restaurant. You know, we go to the club. We buy things off the shelf that we shouldn't be getting in the supermarket, among other things. We can spend the money on that, even if it was 5 times the price. It wouldn't be enough. You know, it's valuable, and that's going to save lives. Also, do you have a PayPal and a Cash App?
So I do have a Cash App, and it is Quant Soar Inc. So Quant Soar Inc. is what it is. And
Give it to me.
say again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually the dollar sign Quant Soar Inc.
Quant. Oh, okay. So Soar. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
SOAR. So, yeah, and the word SOAR stands for Seeking Outreach, Assistance, and Resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that stands for.
Okay, let me just put this in here. There's
Thank
no
you so much.
Oh yeah, this is okay. Here we go. Make sure I spelled that right. In addition to the book, we need to, you know, that's right.
And I'm doing the official launch. I wish you were still here in Orlando, because I'm doing the official launch here right outside of Tampa on Friday.
You know, I'll be there with my cameras. You know. I'll be right there with this one here. This one right here.
Oh,
just right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I can get somebody to come by and get me that footage. You know?
Well, I'll be here on this Friday. Yeah. I'm going to be collecting gift cards as well as giving toys for a local organization here called West Florida Foster Services. So everything I do, I'm a part of the grassroots of foster children. I'm in it to win it. I'm not just trying to have a book and be an author. I have to do the work. I have to volunteer. I have to put my hands to the plow, and I have to serve. That's just something that I've always been a participant of.
You're built for this. You're made for this. And even though it's unfortunate, many of the things you went through, those are the proving grounds. That was your boot camp.
Yes,
and now a great work, because nothing's going to get by you that's not proper, and you'll spot it, and you'll see it, and you'll be able to correct it and save lives. Trust me.
Yeah. And I've reconciled with a lot of those foster parents, including the last home that I was in before my mother. We got a chance to fellowship together. I got a chance to go to Miss Treadwell's house. I got a chance to go to Miss Turner. So one of the things I believe in is true healing. And that means that you have to face it. You got to face it.
Yes. Yes. Wow. I see Empress G's here. I don't know if you want to open up your line and say anything. I know you probably have to go right now, but I don't know if anybody else wants to come in and say, okay, yeah, that's what I was scared was going to happen. So I'll just take off the whole thing. Let me just take off this banner.
I stayed in the back.
Yeah. Hold on one second. We're going to get Bear here. Take off this pretty banner just to have everything go through. Okay. And I'm gonna,
Hi. Yes. How are you?
All is well. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Empress.
Oh, my God, girl, listen, you hurt my heart.
Oh.
I had tears. I was like, I have never heard a story like this before in my life.
Wow.
And I just have to tell you that you are a phenomenal woman. You're a beautiful person. You have the most amazingly calm spirit I have ever experienced on this platform.
I
mean, to tell your story and to tell it in the manner that you've told it, I am so thankful that I was given the opportunity to even be a part of this. And just to let you know verbally, I truly appreciate what you've done. I'm getting the book. I'm getting the book. I'm a get the book kind of person, you know.
Thank you so much.
So I will be getting the book, and you're beautiful, and you were given that assignment, and you have carried it out perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, you have carried it out perfectly, and I have to say that the best thing the Creator did for you was to put you with the first family that you were put with, because that was actually your what's the word? That was your rock. That was the bedrock and your foundation for everything that you experienced going forward. Because in the midst of all of those trials, you could go back into your little goodie bag of good experiences and pull from that. You know, so in all things, just give thanks. This was your assignment and you handled it perfectly. Perfectly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Mimi says she can't find the Cash App, but I put it back up in the front here. So
yeah.
It might be, you know what? It may be Quant Soar Incorporated. I probably said my little symbol for it.
Okay. Let me just type it back again so everybody can see it.
So it's Quant Soar INC, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just INC, not the full incorporated. Okay.
Let me try to cash out myself, because to be honest with you, I have not. I just looked it up.
I was about to do the same thing. It's like, let's all try.
Yeah. We're gonna work your Cash App tonight. Yeah.
I truly appreciate it.
And remember, this video is gonna stay up forever. So even if you see this thing next year, let's just keep throwing Cash Apps at her. That's right. Because she's doing it for the children.
Coming up. Once you type Quant Soar, it'll come up.
Quant Soar in the INC.
Yeah, it's there. Quant.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
It's that.
Okay.
And you'll see my picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
See it? Can you see it? Let me come
I see it. Yeah.
See it? Okay. Yeah. But I have to give a shout out to my publisher, Naisha D. Davis, with Zaya Consulting, book writing coach and publisher company. I met her and I was already on chapter 5, Lance. Because my coach made me write the book, because she's saying you are the representation of your very business. So September 21st is when we met, but I called my publisher October 4th. I was already on my 5th chapter. So she even said that it was prophecy for her, because someone prophesied to her that you will have someone that comes into your life that's already ready with their book, and you won't really need to do much but just push it out, because they use the reference of a baby being just pushed out, because she sees herself as a midwife, just taking this baby and pushing it out. And I wrote this book under 2 months.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, if you met her October 4th,
the book was
and it's published. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that's the Holy Spirit. That wasn't me. That was inspired by the Holy Spirit. I was under the influence. And I have a joke that I tell, and I'm okay with how I tell it. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I speak of it in the book. But I use it as a superpower, because anybody knows that when you go from a manic or mania, that means that you have super adrenaline. That means you can do things that nobody can do. And I'm a living witness that my family will tell you that girl, she will work a full-time job, volunteer, write a book, cook, clean, go to bed 3-4 hours, get back up, and she at it again. And I just use my mania
to your benefit.
You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah.
I'm going to say a joke to piggyback on that, since you're all right. I want to be bipolar too, so I can get a lot done.
It's a way to use it to your advantage. I mean, I'm not making light of it. I was diagnosed. I took medication for a season, but now I've always used it to push myself to do more things. When that comes over me, I can go the distance, and I use it for the positive and for the good.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Wow, we love you. Everybody hit that Cash App. Read that book and go deep in it. And whenever you're ready to come on, whenever you have another event, a book signing, please come on before, because no matter where it is, it's going to make people aware of it. Let's do more shows. You can come up with the topic or the title, an aspect of it. You see something on the news, you say, I want to talk about this. And you're the one for this. So Don't let it be just one show buried, because 2 weeks go by, I probably do 50 shows. So we got to keep on top of things. You know what I mean? So
I know. Yeah. You're so talented, and I love your passion. I just truly love your passion. And I'm just now meeting your beloved co-host and
Thank you.
warrior woman beside you. I'm grateful and thankful for you both. I truly am.
Thank you. You know, I have a question for you. It's something that crossed my mind, because I know, you know, from having friends who did foster care, I mean, whether they did it good or not, that's a whole different story. Oh, go right ahead. Yeah, I know. And I know the monies that they can make from being foster parents. And I know that for a couple of them, being foster parents, that was the motivation, was getting the money. You know what I mean? So it wasn't even, you know, really taking care of those children. So one of the things that kind of crossed my mind, and I'm not really putting it out there that people are dishonest or anything like that, but the simple fact that none of your social workers and your case workers were really looking into the situations and the conditions that y'all were living in, what crossed my mind is the possibility that they were getting a little something under the table from some of these foster parents, you know, because I don't know about Chicago, but I know in New York, back when I knew people who were involved in it, they were getting like $3,000 a month per child, you know.
Yeah,
that's a good amount of money.
It is. And, you know, if your place specialized, you can get like $1,500 per child, right? So to answer your questions, like anything else, there's a way to criminalize it.
Yes.
There's a way to criminalize it.
Yes.
And it's sad to say, but it exists. And this is why oversight is so
important.
needed.
Yes.
And I was telling Lance that what's hurtful is that they don't let foster children or former foster children have a seat at the table to help formulate whatever the regulations, policies, procedures, and get involved. And this is one of the reasons why I said I want to become a guardian ad litem, because I want to be a part of the solution.
Yes.
I served in Broward County with an organization for 5 years, doing a mentorship with girls who were former foster children. So I did that leadership and that work, and I'm graduating, going into, you know, the guardian ad litem, and people are saying, why don't you become a foster parent? I don't have a problem with being a foster parent. It's just, this is the way that God is leading me to do the work and to have a voice.
Right.
This demographic.
Perfect. You know, and you're right. It is sad that they won't allow you a seat at the table, because who better to, you know, speak on the things that children are suffering through than somebody who has suffered through it themselves.
And I equate it, you know, me, I have to use NBA sometimes to illustrate, you know, where I'm going with this is that who are the coaches?
Exactly.
Former players, right?
Exactly.
So who knows the game? Who knows
better than
the person that has done it, been there, done that.
Exactly.
And I just really believe, like what I say in the book, you know, the Black Lives Matter and the Me Too. It's time for my foster children to get a platform. It's long overdue. It's long overdue for them to dismiss us. It's too many homeless foster children, too many incarcerated former foster children, too many addicts, and, you know, they're just left for themselves. They're left to themselves.
I agree.
And that's not okay.
Because I've seen, like I said, you know, I had several friends, and I'm not going to tell you they were the pillar of, you know, foster care society. You know what I mean? Because I know the reason behind what they were doing. You know, and it's not right. It's sad, and that's something that really should be put to the forefront.
And I talk about that in the book, that there's a lot of bad actors in any institution, in any system. It does need an overhaul. They don't need to recreate the wheel. It needs to be totally uprooted, destroyed, and really redone and done right and done well.
Right.
Yeah.
Boy, I could not have imagined this story. I could not have imagined this story.
And it's so many others. That's not even touching the surface. It's so many deaths at the hands of various different.
Well, you could have been that statistics with that rat poison. Oh my God.
And the drinks.
And bleach.
These were other foster children. I really want to hit home with that. There's a lot of different activities that are going on in these homes. And it's not necessarily a foster parent. It can be another foster child. It can be the biological child.
Yeah.
Or relative.
Yeah. My gosh. Unbelievable. Well, thank you so much, my dear sister. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And I would love to see you again. I know Brother Lance is going to make sure you come back. He's going to be on you.
Yes, indeed. Watch the comments on this video is a couple of days or from tomorrow or whatever. And you're going to see how many people you touched. And like I said, this is the kind of work we're going to do, you know?
Yeah. We need a village. If I can impress upon anyone, we need a village. We need our village. We really do.
Yeah. Our children are suffering, and it's not necessary.
It isn't.
You know, they shouldn't have to suffer. It's not right. It's not fair. And you're right. We do need a village.
We do. We need a village for them. Yeah.
And with your permission, I would like to be a little more direct with the title, and even in the title, have the word foster care in it.
Yeah.
Because people going through it will say, you know, when I said a revealing conversation, that's not telling it. That's too big. It's on the banner. That's probably going to stay there, but the actual title on YouTube, I'm going to change it.
Okay. A little more. Yeah, I trust your creative genius.
All right. Thank you. I'll take care. Well, listen, sweetheart, I see where it's time for you to rest yourself and whatnot. Now, you know I can go up to 6 more hours. I'm not going to do that to you. And because you know I'm long-winded, but you have a good night's rest. And just imagine how many people you touched tonight. And let's keep this going. We love you.
Yes.
Love you both, you guys.
Love you too, sweetie.
And Happy New Year if I don't get to see
Thank you. And I'm so honored to meet you. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the audience. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if nothing else, I thank you for the time you've given me today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And everyone in the chat loves you.
Thank you so much.
Folks are vibing with you, and they're hurting with you, and they understand what you're saying, and it's been good just seeing what they've been writing, and Lance is putting up a lot of it right there for you to see. Yeah.
Thank you so much, each and every one of you. I see the love and I feel it. Thank you.
Okay, my dear. Take care.
God bless you all.
You too, honey. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Yes, I'm not even going to stay on so long.
No, that's all right.
I mean, I could, but I don't want. I want the message to be right where it is, where she left off.
Yes.
And I don't want to put too much of my own touch in there and then mess it up and dilute it, tell jokes and go off into something else.
No.
I want to leave this as it is, and I will have the information when it's up as a video. Since this show went on for 2.5 hours, it may take 30 minutes, 45 minutes before the processing, because it's a live show. It's going to process into a video. So give us that time. If you hit it back immediately, you probably won't even be able to start from the beginning. You got to wait a little while. It's it's 1:56 over here. What time is it over there? It's like what now?
8:56.
8:56 on the East Coast. Give it till 10 o'clock when information is down in the bottom. I want to put as much as I can. I'm going to have her back on. And like I said, what could we say after that? Let's just digest this. And let's share this one. Share this one everywhere, y'all. Share this one everywhere. It's probably going to save a lot of lives, save a lot of nervous breakdowns or confusion, and clear it up. Just share it.
Yes.
I don't even say it that much, you know, but I got to say that for this one. And just put good energy out to her, because she's doing a lot. She has a right that if she didn't want to do anything at all, she didn't have to, but she's doing a lot. You understand? So that's what it is. So what can I say? Anyway,
all I can say is thank you.
Mismatch. I got you.
No, I saw that when I first came in. I saw the, the different screens. So I stayed in the back.
Yeah. I still got to do a whole different design with a whole bunch of them, and I've been running. And today, I did a little videotape and didn't go live with it. Glad I didn't. The lighting was all wrong, and it wasn't that. You'll see. Another event I was invited to, but something just told me just stay home and rest.
Right.
I went and laid down. I think I slept for 5 hours. One of those where I'm just gonna lay down for a second and whatever. And I woke up 5 hours later. But let me shut up. Let's leave the show beautiful like it is. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yes.
We'll be back tomorrow live talking about something. I got something to do. Oh, I'm gonna go down to the Macola market, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't care who don't like the. I got to use this one. I'm gonna use this one and the GoPro. You understand?
Are you gonna go live?
I would have to have a good phone. When I get that iPhone, I'll be able to go live a lot, right? But
this right.
Look, if I end up dialing any one of you in the middle of the night, it's because this thing has a mind of its own. Like the crack at the bottom, it just jumps like in messages and texts and stuff, all kind of psychobabble. So anyway, all I'm gonna do is hold the camera and just walk. Y'all got to see this. You all got to see this market. So it's gonna be phenomenal. I'm just gonna walk around for an hour, hour and a half, maybe. Come back, do some other things, and later on, maybe in the afternoon. Well, I'm 5 hours ahead, so if I do something at 6 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock East Coast time.
Exactly.
3 o'clock, it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning. So that works out fine this way. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed, not just enjoyed like entertainment, but enjoyed the world that she took you through to enlighten you, so you can see things that many of us are not aware of as we go to our homes that may have minor issues. Nice cushy beds, little refrigerators we can go into, anything go on, put the lights on, drive a nice car. Look, it's really gifted to have what we have, but she's a gift after what she's been through.
Yes, indeed.
Like I said, her work has just begun and it's been going on, but she has greater things coming, and hopefully other people will see her through this interview. Bigger people than here.
Yes,
I'm just happy that she chose us to come on over here, and for a while, and we did an interview a long time ago, many years ago, and like I said, we need to see we need to push and get behind it. When you get that book, tell the other people to get that book.
Right, get the book. I hope she's a New York Times bestseller. Let's put it out there, New York Times bestseller. Blow the lid off of this whole thing. Yes.
Even if you know someone who's in the foster care system who is of age enough to understand it, let them see the book, because it's going to take them to know that somebody else has gone through this and the way out of it, and how to think and to know that these things have happy endings. She's still struggling with certain things, of course, but we all are, aren't we? Right?
True.
But upward trajectory, and everything is going to be all right. So let me shut up, and we're going to get out. And I'm going to hit some. I got a little Mr. Political thing there. I might work on it, and maybe it'll be up. I'll start it. I'll get up to pee in the middle of the night, hit the button, it'll pop up. I'll shoot it up as soon as I can. Real comical. Nice long one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, we'll do it that way.
Okay, no problem. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
You said something. I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm going to hit the music, and we'll skedaddle on along. But I'll see everybody tomorrow or later on today.
Alrighty.
Because I'm already in Sunday. Okay.
I know. We're just at 9 o'clock.
Right? Y'all are late. I was thinking about going up on the rooftop in the dark and just, showing you the lights. I don't know. If I can't sleep, I'm going to go up there and do that. But I'm going to do that one of these nights. Because I didn't get a chance to go rooftop today. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, much love, everybody. We'll
Take care, guys.
We'll be back. Trust me, we got some work.
My Lord is I lost my love. to the groove. I my Lord is I lost my love. They gonna move to the groove. I my Lord is I lost my love. My Lord is I lost my love.